What's going on, everybody? It's Man Tomorrow here. I want to thank you guys for coming through. We while I'm getting this going here, give me a minute before I get started. So that way I can change the title and link to the Mill's actual live stream if it's still up. So give me a second while I change the chat. I didn't hold on a second. All right, there we go. Sorry about that. I want to thank everybody for coming through. We're going to discuss this actual topic because I don't think this is a bad thing, but it's getting a little pathetic for the men who are actually engaging in this. And you have to understand that this, just like the Manosphere was the first time these people ran into this type of information, for the grand masses, I'm not talking about the people who know better. Then there was the people who ran into this type of information when Kevin Samuels was actually doing it. Then you have the people who ran into this type of information when it's the Melody Kings and Pineapple Show, whatever. They're doing the same thing. You have to understand that when you jump on these panels and talk to these women, you're doing so at a deficit. You're really doing so at a deficit. For me, I'm not worried about what they do for a reason because I never. It's going on No Excuse. It's going on Van Black. It's going on BMT. It's going on GC, Mike Fletcher, Grand Poobo 00, Frank Clutch, Shooting Here, James Bill, Little Rock, No Country for Old Self. Make sure y'all hit the like when y'all come in because for some reason I couldn't even see myself live. I had to refresh this thing like 5 or 6 times even to go find myself. It's called Dick Up. It's called Cancel. I personally think just like All those other things was raising awareness, whether you agree with them or not. I definitely disagree with most of them. Like the manosphere itself was an awareness tool, was to make people aware of what was happening. You can stay in the making things awareness. Oh, thanks for the super chat, Doug. Thanks, happy birthday, MOT. Yeah, man, thanks, man. So it's like the action was going to be individual. Like I made these points on Ramil's chat when I was up there. Your response to this is going to have to be individual. Your response is going to have to be individual. And you're going to know whether you are where you're at or not on how many times you have to show up. I'm not talking about getting the people to respond to videos. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about the people who are calling these shows. You're not going to game these people into giving up infinite choice. I keep saying, you're not going to get anybody to give up infinite choice. If the shoe was on the other foot, it's called back on back for y'all. Happy birthday. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at. It's like there's a lack of action on our part collectively as men. And this is how we keep resetting the conversation back to the starting point. Yeah, thanks, baby. Glad, glad. But but that's kind of where we at though. Because for me, it's an eye-opening situation where you have people like imagine if there's a minefield. Thanks for the $2 super chat, Mike. Imagine that there's a minefield. There's mines all over this minefield. There's literally a sign that says minefield. But you have people who walk into minefield and immediately get exploded. That's what it's like looking at these guys who keep going onto these shows to do this. Now, the people who are actually doing this, the men and the women who are itching to like talk to these women about their past and the things that they've done, they're merely doing it for money because there's a way that you can actually help these people. I was going over that with Patriarchy Who Strikes Back when we was able to have a decent conversation about answers and solutions. Like if you actually do want to help these people, please don't do this for super chat trinkets. You can literally do this through a nonprofit organization and make bajillions of dollars doing so. And all these people who claim that they don't want to help these people out are the main people who are funding these type of programs and are the main people who are benefiting from this type of work being done out here. So what you have to get is this is going to be an ongoing problem forever. And this is not going to be just a problem that's going to be affecting one community or another forever. Person's Capriel, thank you for that. But that's kind of where we at because the government's just going to keep throwing more and more money at this issue until it gets resolved. Now, it's not going to get resolved because you can't resolve an issue this large that is spread this far over the culture. It doesn't matter where you go within this country. Like right now, I'm getting loaded right now in Edison, New Jersey, and I'm going to be going to St. Joseph, Missouri, because I'm buying a lot of land. And I'm out there 2-3 times a week, and I see the same thing out there that I see in the South, that I see in parts of Illinois, the Champagnes, the Peorians. You're seeing this stuff everywhere. It doesn't matter whether you're black or white. It doesn't matter. You're seeing the outcome of families when people just did not formulate the things properly. They didn't pick the correct people and they got bad outcomes. This is everywhere. And also in these areas, you have dudes who think they're quote unquote bitch rich and think that now these women are going to come back to the table because they're now suffering. That's not the case. Yeah, that's what's up, man. Great to check guy. Thanks for $2 super chat. Yeah, thanks for that. So it's like this problem is so widespread that they can only do nothing but just throw money in. They're now setting up treatment centers in these rural communities for actual methamphetamine. Jose Marquez, thank you for the happy birthday. Yeah, so it's like these issues are not going away. Like they're trying to clean up the actual meth epidemic by having signs on buses and all this kind of stuff, and they're going to have a lot of government money flowing through trying to help these people. Is it going to be effective? I don't think so, because it is an individual choice and an individual failing and the individual reason of why a person got into this in the first place. Just ask thanks for your happy birthday. Thanks for the 899 pounds, British pounds, super chat. So it's like this. I mean, you have to recognize it for what it is. It is entertainment. Now, I expect women to do the entertainment piece. I expect women to do the talking piece. But I don't expect men to be continuously at some point jumping up on these shows and getting side down like ripe corn. That now that doesn't make a lot of sense for guys to continuously keep doing this. I'm talking about the callers who call in. Because you have to understand that you're going to have a lot of self-worth issues in this society, especially when it comes to a overly highly competitive sexual marketplace like it is here for no reason. Thanks for that, social provider. And you have to realize your own individual action is going to get you out of this. Thanks for that, but listening to SBE, listening to these people get clowned, listening to these people not knowing that what they're doing is wrong, that's not going to help your individual circumstances. We got to make sure that there's a bulwark against people taking this type of information and like weaponizing it against men, which is start talking this community nonsense and all this kind of other stuff. Because people who talk this community nonsense are broke. Let's keep it real. Women get to talk to the community nonsense because they're the beneficiaries of this type of environment. They are the beneficiaries of this type of environment. I'm talking about for the most part, game changer, not you. I'm just saying for the most part, because you're not a pro bliggity bliggity black. That's not what I'm talking about. So there are organizations and there are ways to help these people. Like I said, you give these people the perspective up front, you turn these people on to opportunity up front, they can have a better outcome. But they need access to better people to have a better outcome. You're not going to get a better outcome dealing with the same people. You're going to get a better outcome dealing with people who have the same end goal in mind. There is no such thing as I'm just getting temporary sex out of these people and I'm winning. That's not something that you should be hearing from men. And quite frankly, I never respected it out of men here because you're the people who they go to for protection to keep this actual system going. What's going on, Lonnie? So what you guys have got to understand, like, it's an easy opportunity to talk about SBE, not the response. The response is just clowning these dudes, and everybody's hee ha ha over it. I'm talking about the people going into the marketplace, the we need to talk type people. That's a problem. While they cannot be part of the manosphere, trying to help these people without a nonprofit organization is not the way this stuff is going to be done. The only way you can help these people is through institutional means. And even if after you help them through institutional means, they're still going to make a personal decision of whether or not they want to keep these things going. They've already made the decision. They've already made the decision. A lot of people think, falsely think, because it's being socialized by older individuals, that you have to try everything that you possibly can with these actual people. Otherwise, you're a failure if they continue failing. That's something that should have never been socialized among men. We're, we're not a group like that. Maybe we were a group like that when we were, during the Reconstruction and maybe afterwards and maybe on those plantations. But at this point in time, we're not a group like that. We're individuals. And individuals have to individually work on themselves to get a better individual outcome. Are there people who don't have the particular type of uh, poison running through their veins, so they'll do the same thing that everybody else? Maybe. But that's just not a large supply, especially not a large enough supply of people over 40 who don't have any kids or any experience whatsoever. And it is such a horrific idea to try to close that gap of using or thinking that you're going to sexually exploit these people into temporary sex. Like you have to understand that you're not going to be able to manipulate somebody who grew up in a system like that. Because you got two groups of sexual predators. I hate using that word, but for the lack of a better term, you have two groups of people who's trying to game each other out of a long-term solution by putting a little in. The woman wants a guy to settle for her when she has absolutely nothing to give. What's going on, Cedric? And the man wants access to temporary sex without having any intentions on trying to take care of her familial situation. With the legislation that Marco Rubio introduced in the Senate last week, it was in reference to men. As soon as like this is another holdover after the actual Roe v. Wade was overturned by the Supreme Court. Now, if you pay attention to politics, you'll know that this was never about Roe v. Wade. It was about controlling the trajectory of being a forced birth act. So now, I think it's 7 states. It's maybe 8. I thought it was another state that signed on this morning. But now, Treasure Web, thanks for the $10 super chat to Sean Ford to another brother. Yeah, thanks for that, man. Black Curl, thanks for the happy birthday. But it's like now it is at a detriment to you to even deal with these people at all, even sexually. Because if you give people the idea that they can go get pregnant by somebody else, there could be no paternity test whatsoever. And this person can just put this baby on whoever she wants to, whether they have sex with the person or not. And the child support starts at the actual level of conception. So Mississippi was the first one who passed this horrific level of legislation, even going way beyond what Marco Rubio was talking about. I think Mississippi's abortion ban is 3 weeks. That's not even enough to miss a cycle, but hey, I mean, they come up with the legislation that they want to, right? So now you realize the relationship industry and the dating coach industry was always working on the behalf of the women. Glorious one, thank you for telling our super chat. Happy birthday. Eventually, some people will have to learn the hard way. Going to talk about it individually at the first best option, realistic, because you can see the foolishness that's ahead of you. Yes, I agree. So now, like my actual role in the manosphere now is to go from just educating you on the things that are actually happening, the things that are actually happening. So that way, you yourself cannot get caught up in being a shoulder to cry on when these actual issues happen. And they're not going to stop there, by the way. I think it was, yeah, it was yesterday. It was yesterday when there was a bill that came up in the House that actually voted to make access to contraception an actual right. And it was voted down by a specific party, the same party that overturned the Roe v. Wade. Now, this isn't a Democrat Republican conversation. It's a what the conservative Supreme Court thinks of this actual move, because there's going to be an actual case that's going to be challenged up to the Supreme Court, codifying whether or not you have legal access and right to contraception. I'm talking about men and women both. These forced birth advocates, if they wanted the actual abortion issue to not be used as what they call it contraception or just getting rid of a kid because they got pregnant, they could have legally and actually legislated enough weeks to where you cannot have an abortion. So that way you can get those things done. But those people didn't want that. It was whether you have access to this actual type of health care or not. That's what the issue was. And right after this, the actual Roe v. Wade was actually overturned. There was a 10-year-old in Ohio that was sexually assaulted by a far older man. And because of I think it was a 5-week abortion ban in Ohio at the time. And this person had to take this 10-year-old across the border. Oh, yeah, I'm going to get to that. I'm going to get to that, no excuses. Trust me. And so this 10-year-old had to be taken across the border to Indiana in order to get, an abortion. But the actual people on the right wing were writing hit piece articles on a 10-year-old. What's going on, Isaac? They was writing hit pieces on a 10-year-old because the 10-year-old went across the border to go get an abortion because the person was sexually assaulted. I don't think a 10-year-old's body can actually be able to carry a child. I don't think anybody endorses something like that. But see, you have to understand the mentality of the people who pass these type of laws, man. Because it's not about health care. It was about forcing this person to have this child regardless of the consequences, even if they were sexually assaulted. So now you have this situation that's going to sweep the country, by the way, where people can just get baby trapped and not even have sexual access to the actual woman. 7 states have done that, Mississippi being one of the first. So all the people who are celebrating the abortion issue didn't realize that they didn't have the productivity together at the specific point to where they can handle an actual pregnancy from the moment of conception. It's not like all men got their stuff together within a couple months ago. It does absolve the matter. Patriarchy straight back. It solves it on like you got to understand that there's not a collective man that's going to do anything. These things are going to happen on an individual basis because this happened on an individual by individual household, and you have to fix it on an individual by individual household. The collective right now, as you and I see it, they're doing something that is antithetical to the entire group. The people who don't want to do this, we have to become the new collective. Collectives always start off very small and very deliberate. You got to be very deliberate on having a specific outcome. It does eventually absolve the issue for self. You're not going to be able to absolve it for a group of people who intentionally chooses to do something that they know is not good. You're not going to be able to affect those people at all. But you can have individual better outcomes, and that's what this is about. This is about having better outcomes because you're not going to be able to affect the group. You're going to be the new group by not having these issues. That's where the group starts. It starts individual. It starts on a family by family basis. It starts by the people who you engage with. It starts by people having a level of investment that you do. That's why I say it starts with culture. There is a way to fight this, but it's not going to yield the type of results that getting into this specific position have got us there in the first place. So what I'm saying is, reminding somebody of something that benefits them is not going to help. Because there's the SBE response to it, and then there's the SBE actually engaging in it. Yes, it's going to make a lot of people rich. I'm not going to lie to you. It's going to make a lot of people fabulously wealthy, just talking to random individuals, making them look incredibly crazy, and having these clips go around on social media. There's a lot of money that's going to be made in that. I'm not going to get into that actual field because that doesn't benefit my overall outcome. I know it can't be saved. I know what cannot be saved will not be saved. This has to have a change in heart of the individuals, most of them who are way past the point of no return, to change those things. John Phillips. Yes, yes. And this is an individual choice and decision. I get it. I feel humiliated and horrified every time I walk into a Walmart and I see a mother yelling at a young ass child with a whole bunch of children around them that I know are probably hers. Like, hell yeah, that stuff makes me upset when I see it. But I also have to understand that seeing those people make those mistakes, I got to make sure that I got to be disciplined as hell to make sure that I don't end up in that circumstance. The bottom floor now has already been put in for kids right now. The bottom floor is the environment itself. Like me, I'm in my 40s. There was no bottom floor for us. The bottom floor for us was older Generation X men. Because I'm Generation X, I'm just at the later end of it. There were older men who was trying to specifically get us into this bad system. This is why I say the cool uncle is also a big part of the actual gynocratic system itself, too. The cool uncle who's not talking about productivity. The cool uncle who has great access to these children who don't tell these children to leave these specific type of people the hell alone. Because like the cool uncles who was around me, like my cousins and shit who was in like in their 50s, they wasn't telling me to leave this stuff alone. They was trying to get me up into this bad system because they wanted to be a leader of something. That's how come they wasn't around men of substance. Time smash for the 49 super chat. At this point, the best option is to keep your circle small and give an alliance and acquaintance to do your personal business outside the U.S. Yes. Yes. I agree. Just like segregation now, segregation tomorrow, segregation forever. Now we got SBE now, SBE tomorrow, SBE forever. I agree, man. I agree. I agree. I agree. These actual outcomes are going to have to be individual. You have to realize at this point, sitting around trying to talk to these women on panels and trying to bring on these, you know, placebo Keishas to actually, hey, here's a decent one right here. No, 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 no. You're trying to socialize people into going back into this burning building. If there's a group of these women out there, feel free to formulate some type of movement, have some type of bat signal in the sky or whatever. Otherwise, it's all talk. The action needs to be on you to make sure that you as an individual are not putting up with these things going forward. And if you do have a kid, don't have any more in this type of system. You are so aware of this whole life cycle at this point. There is no way you can end up with these circumstances. However, there is a way that you can end up being baby trapped by not having sexual access to an actual woman and her actually moving to another state. That's what's on the pike right now. So when a master teacher was talking about the women are coming back to the table, they're coming back to the table now. They're coming back to the table to give you a little piece. And after you have a little piece, and after they know your real name, they're going to take your ass to court. And now you're going to be on the hook for this. And now you're going to have your paychecks docked from the moment of conceivable conception of the child with no type of trial. And there's a lot of states out there, no matter what your complaints are, they would rather have you pay for it than them. So now it's doubly even more of a responsible move for you not to actually engage in the system. Yes, I'm telling you, this is a cultural problem. Yes, that's what it is. That's what it is. Dude, listen, most of these states, you don't even have to do no DNA test. You can just have the name put on there. And it's so easy to look up somebody's personal information, name, address, phone number, years of tax return, all that kind of stuff. It's too easy to do that now. This is what I'm saying when you don't have political power as a group. The same people celebrating abortion were the same people who didn't see this coming. That's what I'm saying. Focusing on the actual actions and activity of women is not going to help you become a better man. The only thing it's going to do is going to just socialize you into thinking that this is the only way, this is the only people that I can deal with. I might as well accept my consequences and come to the manosphere and actually have a powwow with people who also decided just to stay here. It doesn't matter. It's going to be abused. It's going to be abused. We're not even at the table. We're not even at the table. We should have had our stuff together in the manosphere 5 years ago. So that way these type of legislations won't be passed against us. And I also made the point on Ramils that SBE, before it was a thing, SBE was a game dude thing. SBE was a game dude thing. You had dudes who had no access to women come online claiming that they know how women think, what women do, WABT and WABD. Those dudes was working for the free, explaining women's actions when they had no basic access to the women that they claimed that they knew so much about. And most of these dudes who did this were on child support, calling other people tricks. When a dude who is on child support is the ultimate trick. You're paying for things well after it's taken a turn. That's what I'm saying. That yes, there's going to be people who's going to go into this field. There is legitimate ways you can help these people. Very legitimate. The government already has money set aside per state, even in conservative ones, about how to solve these issues. Are you to solve these issues with your own life, putting your own neck on the line? Absolutely not. You have to get out of your head that this community idea is somehow for you to fix. It's not for you to fix. They got into it on an individual basis. They're going to get out of it on an individual basis. Just like when you go to the store and go get an air conditioning system, nobody expects you to put that air conditioning in your window backwards and try to cool down the whole community. Nobody expects that. Like I said, most of these kids are statistics. You're going to have these PhDs come around here and try to intellectualize and try to make you feel comfortable because they talk with big words. Where the action at? These kids are statistics. You cannot help them. 17 or 18 years inside of that household, being humiliated the hell out of, having their level of creativity destroyed. Now the same men want to come to the internet and try to tell you that the women are coming back to the table. They got a reason to come back to the table now. They're coming back to the table to take more out of you. They got to take more out of you now. And you don't have to do this. You're not responsible for this. Yes, I feel guilty too when I'm looking at this. I know a lot of people nowadays think it's okay to throw SYSBM under the bus or passport bros in general, but you have to understand that we already found a solution and we just went to it. So now let me get back to no excuses comment. Having said that, you have to understand that this is just not about abortion. This is about all forms of birth control. They want you to have a kid every single time that you have sex. Period. That's what they want because they're forced birth advocates. And the same people who made these unscrupulous claims about how small government they were celebrating the fact that the government told an actual woman that she couldn't have a constitutional access to whatever type of health care she wanted behind closed doors. And how quickly did that blow up in these men's faces right after that happened? It blew up pretty quickly in their face. What's wrong with them? You have to understand that you are not a conservative if liberal women is all you talk about. You are not a conservative if you set your business model up around responding to, being on panels with, trying to argue with these people. Yes, there's nothing to argue with at this point. If this is Wheel of Fortune, there's no many consonants you can roll for, and there ain't no more vowels you can buy. You just have to read the puzzle, and that's all. You got to understand that. You got to be more disciplined with how you spend your time. That includes not trying to visibly show how much money you make. Because visibly trying to show how much money you make could end you up being on somebody's child support checklist. Again, you don't have to show people how much money you make. I'm making a miss amount, but I work in a miss amount. You don't see me trying to go and try to make it rain anywhere. Because when you call yourself a high value man at this point, you are simply doing so for people to take you for everything that you built. That's what the further goal of the high value man was about. Getting you to simply get all of your stuff together so you can come back to the table and settle for the same group of people who never respected you in the first place. Now it's codified in the law. This is high value man legislation. Legislation perfect for the high value man who wants to tell everybody in the world that he's finally ready to settle. There's your thanks. Thanks for that. That's what the long term goal was. The long term goal for most of these older men was for you to actually turn around and correct their mistakes. You were supposed to correct their mistakes by taking the same group of women, Generation X and younger, that they had free access to. Well, those women within their youth, because I was there. I'm not blind. I've seen these people falling out of the cars of 40 and 50-year-old men. Not dumb. Yes, they did create an actual system, a system of shaming and humiliating men who didn't have access to that actual circumstance to actually cover their escape on that type of situation. Then you had another group of sexual predators called pro blacks who wanted to virtue signal around these same women, telling them that things are never going to change. So you might as well mess with us now. We're going to find you a sucker later on. We're going to socialize that guy into being community minded with his productivity. So that way he can cover for these mistakes. Every single thing at some point is going to support women. The manosphere itself was supposed to solve all types of problems for self after the information was laid out. Guess who it ended up supporting at the end of the day? It ended up supporting The same women that these men claimed that they didn't want. You claimed that you didn't want these women, but you ended up talking about them and focusing on them and holding yourself back financially to make sure that you qualify for them. We knew what was in these communities. But when we didn't bar the door shut and hold these people out of the manosphere, now it's simply another means of getting the bag, of talking a whole bunch of nonsense. It's simply just letting other people run up a tab on our culture. They do. And here's the thing, I don't buy that there's women out there that can't find a decent dude. I don't buy that. Because if you're a woman who got her shit together and her body together and don't act like the rest of these domesticated quiches, you have a 100,000 to 1 man to actually choose from. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So now you're gonna have people with basketball under the shirt going into courtrooms and putting people on child support, moving to other states to where you don't even know where these people are. I keep telling you, this is going to be your fault. People like, oh, it's just entertainment. It's not entertainment. It has consequences. It has consequences. Again, it wasn't infiltrated. They were just simply let back in the door. It wasn't infiltrated. The women didn't have to pick any locks. The women didn't have to rappel down any buildings. The women didn't need a battering ram to knock down any doors. The woman was just given a first class tour of the place that she was going to be running. It's not an infiltration. They were already here. They were already here. They was waiting on these weak ass men to go get their stuff together to qualify for a good enough Keisha. That's what that is what was going to happen here. You ever been down south? Because this is the only place where I seen these little ass fences around these big ass yards. Like my grandmother on my mother's side, she had like this fence around this peach tree and this plum tree in the front yard. The only thing was the fence was only 3 feet large. I mean 3 feet high. How is that? How is that going to stop these highly athletic people from running into the yard and taking peaches and plums off the trees? I kept telling her, I'm like, and she used to sit out there with rock salt and a shotgun, and it still didn't stop her. Hold on a second. I wasn't nothing. I just got being loaded. I'm on my way to St. Joseph, Missouri, and then pick up in Kansas City, and then come back down here. What's going on, Sexy Red? What's going on, Reasonable Man? Yes, indeed, man. Dude, let me tell you. She would be on that front porch with that shotgun with the rock salt in it. Didn't stop nobody. Those people went right up there and started pulling them plums and peaches off the peach tree and plum tree. Didn't stop nobody. I'm like, look, you're going to have to put a fence up with like concertina wire and razor tape on it. That's the only way they're going to get it. Hey, man, you think the flooding is bad? That ice that built up on them roads is even worse in the winter. I'm telling you, man, you got to understand this. There is no reason, absolutely no reason, to pretend like you got the perfect formula for helping these people out. You don't have the perfect formula. The perfect formula is them not being in these circumstances in the first place. That's the perfect formula. Them having workable circumstances not being here in the first place. No. Ice in the wintertime. Because after it rains in the wintertime, it does the same problem with the flooding. The actual water gets thick on the highways and then it freezes instantly into ice and they don't do nothing about it. But it's the same flooding issue related to infrastructure. That's what I meant. Sorry about that, Sicko. But that's where we at, folks. SBE is some highly hilarious stuff. But at the end of the day, it is your responsibility to make damn certain that you don't end up in those circumstances. Because now it's time for us to start laughing at people who are in these circumstances. Not necessarily the dudes that being baby trapped, but the dudes who intentionally think that they have this system under control so much that they can teach other people how to get into this. Now you see that the dating coaches actually work for the relationship industry, which actually works for the actual women that they claim that they have this stuff. I'm telling you. But see, I call this stuff way early because I think way ahead into the future. Way ahead into the future. I think way ahead into the future. That's why you really can't push this stuff past me for a long time because I'm going to figure it out rather quickly. Vander Black, dude, they don't want any equipment like that. They don't want any equipment like that. I mean, you got your Pittsburghs, you got your Bostons, you got your Denvers, you got your Salt Lake Cities, and then you have your St. Louis's. They clearly got the equipment in other places on the planet. They just don't want it. And they're not going to spend any money on it either. They'd rather give out tax cuts. So that's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. I hired a social media manager, so they're going to be putting this into the place so that way it can be distributed other places. I don't have time of playing word of mouth games with these damn dudes up around here. It's time to start for me getting on the radio, coming out with this book in a couple months. I'm going to be starting to bring this stuff to the actual public, to other men. We're going to start putting up billboards in some of these places down south, especially South Carolina, where it's cheap to do the digital billboard thing. Because I have substance behind what I'm saying. And if you have substance behind what you're saying, you have to go a hell of a lot further to get your message out. And yes, you're going to have to pay to get it out there. Because a lot of these people in these communities don't realize how bad things are until they get in one of these situations that they can't get out of. That's when they find out. That's when they find out that they were lied to by their cool uncle. That's when they find all this stuff out. That's when they find out about choice. They find out about choice after they don't have any more choice left. I think that's a bad deal because this isn't for just men alone. There's a lot of people who put a lot of time and effort into their sons. I don't want anybody's son to be baby trapped on some nonsense without any type of protection on the other side. There should be some type of protection from this stuff happening. Like they didn't try to solve the paternity fraud issue. They didn't try to solve that. They solved your access issue. You want sexual access? Do it at the behest of your own life and the rest of your productivity. And you know what these dudes are going to do? Even though these live streams are being made, they're going to walk right into these circumstances and have these consequences. And then they're going to look at you and me for a shoulder to cry on after this stuff happens. We have to stop being a shoulder to cry on. There are things individually you can do to make sure that you're not caught up in this type of situation. That's why the wall of silence was important. What's going on, Ron? That's why the wall of silence is so important. The wall of silence and the wall of productivity. If you're not in these people's faces, they're just going to go to the people who are in their faces. And the people who are consistently all up in their face are going to be individuals that they already have. You think women don't know who got the money around here? You really think that? No, they know who got the money. They know because a man with his money think he could just toss it into the face of a person who don't respect money, and that somehow is going to get them on your side. Now you're going to serve a very specific purpose now when you start showing off your money to these people. You're going to be showing off your money so that way you can be a lick. That's why I say it has to be a household by household basis. That's what I'm talking about, man. They do. They want the same options of no consequences as women. They thought that them overturning Roe v. Wade was going to help them out. Like, no, overturning Roe v. Wade was going to set you up to pay child support from conception because that's where they think life starts. After that, they're going to get rid of all the birth control or severely ration it or even tax it. Tax the hell out of it. Then they're going to get rid of your actual ability to have an actual vasectomy. I keep saying, man, you want access to her, you're going to pay for it sooner or later. What's going on, Doug? So you guys have got to understand, man, you don't need to do this. You are owed a very good life. The only thing you have to do is give up this chase. It's a cultural problem. You have to engage it with a cultural solution. Actually, Doug, did you ever get that email or link to that video about the people clowning those people about that SBE stuff? I actually want to do an actual response to that video and why those people who are clowning these dudes are right to do so. You see, cultured men don't have a problem staying away from uncultured women. First of all, they got their own women to deal with. Second of all, it's very embarrassing to go through certain things when there's better options around. I would say that the manosphere has been the biggest Trojan horse for female empowerment that the world has ever seen. I think that we gave women so much more power over our own inability to go find better options. I think we gave them a hell of a lot more options. We as a group, not we as individuals. I'm trying to change individuals' minds. I'm not trying to change the group. The group cannot be changed and they cannot be saved. That's why you have to do this on a household by household basis. I don't think that can happen. Given how people just glanced by the actual child support bill and didn't even cover the bill after they covered the actual abortion bill thing for like so far, they got what they wanted, then all of a sudden they had two steps back. We have to be like the military, man. I'll tell you straight up. There's a lot of schools that I fell out of in the military. And you know what they said? Not a damn thing. They didn't give a shit about you not being able to make sniper school or none of that shit. They didn't care about that. If you're not good enough, if you can't practice these mechanics, if you can't hit this target at 700 yards, bounce. We'll find somebody else who can do this. They didn't change their standards. Of course. Tell them. You failed out of TAC P or Ranger School, nobody gave a shit. You just went back to your unit and you went back to being a cop. That's what happened. Nobody cared. Nobody gave a damn. You're just a dude who failed at this school that he went to after preparing for 6 months. That's all it was. If you have your mind set on the wrong issues, and if you do not understand these issues all the way around, having a 3-6, oh yes, SEER school too. I went through SEER school. It's one of the most painful things I've ever been into in my entire life. You really start to rethink your choices after you get the shit beat out of you and you sitting outside in 25-degree weather in your underwear. Yeah, man, you're not set up to being tortured, man. Yeah, I had to learn that shit. But no, you think you can go through anywhere? Nah, nah, nah. But that's what it is, man. You're not to have any sympathy for dudes going through this shit. None. This is self-inflicted. This is self-inflicted. Self-inflicted. When Christopher Hitchens was talking all that crazy shit about waterboarding until they took his ass over there and he got waterboarding, he got that it was torture when it was happening to him. There is nothing impressive about going through that course, man. Nothing at all. You feel like it's the end of your life every day that your ass was there. I watched out of that shit too. I'm like, man, where the fuck is this shit going? Where is this going? What am I doing here? They don't take black people as hostages. Why am I going through this? Why am I going through this training? You think you high speed and low drag until they strip your ass and start throwing cold water on your ass in the middle of nowhere, man. no sight, you can't see, you're blindfolded, they're asking you all this shit, and you don't know nothing. Nah, man, I'm good. Nah, man, I probably would have got my ass killed. They find out I'm from Mississippi and they did all this work trying to get my ass up in, man. Man, I would have been dead as shit, man. You from Mississippi and you black? Wait a minute, you don't know shit. But I'm serious, man. I am dead serious. You cannot worry about people. They do. They do. They covered the deuce and a half, and they take your ass about, I think, about 40 miles out in the middle of nowhere, and you're at a camp and you can't see shit. Yeah, it's bad. It is very bad, very bad. But you signed up for it. But that's the way it is, folks. You got to understand, man. This SBE is nothing but awareness. Same awareness that the actual manosphere was. And yes, there's going to be people who's going to try to weaponize SBE for their own personal financial gain. And I don't think the people who are covering the SBE things like the Ramils and the Thai cities, I don't consider them part of that group. I consider the people who's actually on the front line trying to explain something to these dangerous ass people. I think those people are a huge problem. I think the people calling into these shows, I think those people are a huge problem. And Ayo, the other thing was it wasn't you. It was five other stupid motherfuckers who signed up for that shit too. And we all looking at each other like, why did we sign up for this shit? But yeah, all this stuff is self inflicted. All this stuff is self inflicted. I got my world class lesson at my first station, like I explained on Ramil. That Chief Master Sergeant gave me a master class in my future. This is what happens to people who think they got this stuff figured out. They're on meal card, babysitting. I didn't know what it was, man. You know, you know, you think you about to do this all this high speed bullshit, and yeah, man. I'm like, hey, man, no big deal. They're just gonna beat your boy ass for a couple weeks, and I'm gonna get this extra stripe. Pretty easy. People only went out there to make rank fast. Let's just keep it real. I was trying to make rank fast. That's what it was. Because you stood out among everybody else if you went to those schools and they didn't. But it was a master class in dumbass shit I shouldn't have been a part of. Yep, below the zone. Yep. I did all that shit and they just gave it to somebody who was just kissing their ass, man. That shit was crazy. It is. It is. It is way worse than the army one. Because what army people do is they cross train into the Air Force, they go through the TACP program, they go through the sniper school because the sniper school is a little bit easier in the Air Force, and then they go through the SEER training. That's when they know they done fucked up. And especially if they know your ass is prior army, you really gonna be in for a hard ass time because they know why your ass is in the Air Force, especially if you was in the army before you went into the Air Force. Yeah, but my dumb ass didn't do no research. Nope. I just hopped my ass off into some stupid ass bullshit. That's what you got to put up with sometimes if you don't do your research. Yep. You can try to leave a situation too fast, and you could be in a situation that your ass shouldn't be in. Trust me. These cool uncles lost, man. All these cool uncle ass dudes, they lost to this woman. Every single one of them. She has a 100% knockout ratio. 100% knockout ratio. There's not a single woman that's completely losing. She could be homeless tomorrow. She can go downtown and find 5 or 6 places to stay. It's so easy for women to get a housing voucher. It's fucking crazy. But you ain't gonna be able to bounce back like that. What happens when people stop hiring people who have this child support bullshit? Man, look, I really look up people's heads sideways if they on some child support shit. Given all the shit that I had to go through with people on child support, trucks at the edge of states and way stations and shit, because yo girl got your ass back on that paper. Some states like Kentucky, they can just she can just say you didn't pay. That shit'll go right through the court systems and everything else, and you got to fight to get the shit back. And you don't even know that it happened until you get pulled over. What do you mean I got a warrant for my arrest? What do you mean I'm driving a truck without a valid commercial driver's license? Yeah, that stuff is for real, man. But this is the position that these people are going to put you into after they get through compromising themselves, man. That's why I say very firmly, that's why I told people, Black Avenger, to fight for custody unless it's the child support. But these people can't fight for custody because they got to prove that they're producing in order to get the damn custody shit underway. That's how my brother effectively neutralized his child support, was doing that shit. All this stuff can be avoidable. You think I'm gonna have sympathy for you because you tried to dig down feminism? Really? Really? You think I'm gonna have somebody with me like that, around me like that? Nah, man. Nah, man. You got to have enough sense not to have your ass in these circumstances in the first place, dude. It's a choice. You decided that you was gonna take your ass over there and that you was gonna make a deal for temporary sex. That's what you decided to do. This whole adage that you can only have a rite of passage within the black community by having woman issues to complain about is also some fucking bullshit. There was some bullshit from the first beginning, socializing to you by this fucking cool uncle motherfucker. I say the cool uncle is even worse than the predator that prey on these unsuspecting dudes, man. Because the cool uncle try to make you look like he went through this stuff and he succeeded. No, 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 no. The cool uncle was escorting your ass into that blast furnace, so that way you can be next. So that way he can go die in peace. Again, these things are optional, man. These things are optional. Optional. Very optional. This is why being by yourself is so important. Being comfortable by yourself is extremely important. Because what happens when you don't even feel human unless you have these circumstances hanging over your head? Is that what you want? Is that what makes you feel more human? I'm not saying everybody does it, but the statistics are not lying. That's why you got to stop these older individuals who talk about women all day. Shit, I want me a boring ass life, man. A boring ass life where I got control over everything. Sounds great. Sounds great. It's time to be boring. It's time to be boring and have everything that works. This whole having this exciting ass life where you don't know what things happening the next day, dude, that's some whack ass shit, man. You shouldn't be around that. You shouldn't be around that. That's what I'm talking about, man. Trying to move up, dude. It's time to move up. That's what I'm saying, man. You're not supposed to know what disaster feels like. You're not supposed to be living on the edge. You can't be out here living like a damn fugitive. That's what I'm saying. But see, these people wanted to take this type of content life from away from you before you even had time to do anything. I got a cabin in St. Joe. I try to take my ass out there as often as possible. I got to be a nice little run that go out there now. I'll take my boring life and my top shelf Long Island iced tea with Sprite instead of Coke, please. That's what I'm on. Hey, I just want y'all to have the best outcomes, man. The best outcomes. The outcomes that I'm experiencing. I don't have to look up to anybody for verification. I get my verification by my damn surroundings and the lack of things that I have to engage in. They are good, man. You got that solar panel. You sitting there just taking in the actual atmosphere and environment. You can actually think about your next moves. You're not really rushing into anything. Roosevelt, thanks for the follow super chat. That's why they can't tell you about the good life, man, because they're not living a good life. Because their good life is actually codependent upon steering you directly into these consequences. All this talk about women has given them immense power, which I think that they should get. If you're going to sit here and repeatedly throw yourself into the wolf's mouth, you can't build a better chicken coop if you're going to repeatedly throw yourself into the wolf's mouth. There's really no need of building better things. If you're going to just skip over all that and skip straight to the consequences, you don't need them. You don't need them. I'm glad my grandfather gave me all of this information before he died. Told me how things worked, told me the people who to stay away from, told me everything. Didn't lie to me. Told told this is why he don't go nowhere. He don't deal with nobody. He told me the truth about how all this stuff worked. Told me to go find the best consequences possible. My mother didn't like that stuff. You gotta be with this person from this environment. And right before she died, she was like, you can't be with these people. And don't bring them to me. Don't bring them to me to this gravestone. Don't bring them here. Bring success to this gravestone. Bring the future to this gravestone. Don't bring somebody you should have stayed away from to this gravestone. A better you awaits, man. But If you intentionally want to sit here and argue with women about things that they know that they should be doing, you're never going to make it. You are never going to make it. So, with that said, time for me to get this first 600 mile off before I get ready to get up out of here. Actually, you know what? Nah, I'm not going to do that. But you guys have got to understand, man. It's time for the world to hear what successful men do and think. You can literally get your message out there and your voice out there. I'm not doing anything hella reckless out here. I'm not throwing, women under the bus or stupid motherfuckers under the dude. Nope, none of that. If we can't agree that we need good individual outcomes, I don't know what we can agree on. What is the CHIPS Act? Oh, hold on a second. Hold on. What's the CHIPS Act? What is that? Hey, yo. What is the CHIPS Act? All right. Okay. You ain't gonna tell me. That's cool. All right, man. So you guys have got to understand, man, that talking about this abortion shit where you can't get no abortion with some clown shit. There was always some clown shit. What's going on, Rael? For some reason I can't see Rael in the chat, but I can. He's typing. Okay. So what you guys have got to understand that there is no woman. Oh, that's good. Oh yeah, that's good. That's very good. That's very good. It should have been happening before. You got to boost manufacturing in the United States one way or another. That means that that money is going to Arizona. Oh yeah, no doubt, man. Oh, I bought access to about like 1,000 books and videos and stuff. I'm trying to figure out how to integrate this stuff into this site that I have, so that way I can have this stuff for very next to no cost. I want people to be able to have no excuse to get to the productivity piece, none whatsoever. I don't want anybody to have any excuse. But this actual conversation was based around the simple fact that there is no single woman who's going to abort your child. If she's forced to have your child, it's going to raise your child in a manner that you're going to respect. That's why I always thought the abortion issue was a weird ass issue. What the hell does it have to do with you if somebody wants to scrape a child out of themselves? I don't care. We have too many people here that is not being taken care of right now by their parents. I'm not a forced birth advocate. In fact, I'm the other way around. I think you need a license to procreate. Yes. I think your ass should be in a ton of classes before you procreate. And you should be held definitely responsible for what you create. I think the punishment should be the same for the parents as it is for the child within a certain level of reason. Yes, because I care that much about the outcomes that I want to be surrounded by. But at the end of the day, if those good outcomes ain't there, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to move to better outcomes myself. I'm going to move to better outcomes. I'm going to explore for better outcomes. And then I'm going to engage in those better outcomes. And then I'm going to watch those individuals who stayed sit here and tell me how they winning with no long-term proof on a one-to-one basis. Remember, Passport Bros and SYSBM, we never have to go out and actually attack other dudes for staying here. We don't have to fill each other with self-esteem because we found a better answer. We don't have to do that. But the people who stay here, the people who choose to stay here, the people who choose to deal with this, they have to be uplifted every time you look around. Every time you look around, is somebody is really telling you about how you can't get a bitch here. Well, everybody don't want a bitch here. Everybody don't want a bitch either. That's what I'm saying. You got to be smarter than these consequences out here. I'm just saying, don't have any sympathy or empathy for those who want to stay in this situation. It is your responsibility to make sure this stuff does not spread to another generation. If they're going to take the stand that this is what they want the culture to represent, you need to make the individual choice and decision to say, I don't want this to represent this, and I'm going to show you by my actions. I'm not going to sit here. I'm not going to show off women. I'm not going to go get my stuff together and make it rain on people that I don't know, because that's crazy. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like there's no problem when I know that there clearly are. This is the individual choice. Let me get this to the person to actually put this in these Facebook groups so I can get these engagement up on this video. I want to thank you guys for coming through, man. I really do. I want to thank you guys for continuing to keep supporting my channel. There's going to be a lot of new people up through here because I have a social media manager, so that way they can get a lot more people in here. Again, individual outcomes matter. I want to thank you guys for coming through. I want to thank you for all the happy birthday well wishes and the people who super chatted on my stuff. Listen, these things are really not that hard. You're not going to get a way more advanced knowledge than what's going on than what you're seeing on this channel right here and others around this space. I think I was talking to Nagano yesterday. Hey man, listen, you let those people SBE themselves to death, you let those people try to correct the hell out of these women, you let them do all that. You know what you do? You keep moving in a more positive direction without these people around. Cannot say more enough. I'm seeing these younger dudes traveling, going places. The last time I was in St. Joe, I seen these dudes. Well, they broke down the side of the road, but them dudes were venturing out, man. They was 16 years old, three dudes. Damn, that shit made me feel happy, man. Seeing dudes getting out there and doing stuff early, stuff I never had the opportunity to do. Like I said, man, this stuff is going to drop off, and then it's going to be a great incline of leaving this stuff alone. That's what I'm saying, Chi. I want to thank you guys for coming through and being here. You guys have a really nice rest of your day. I'm gonna reschedule the actual live stream that I have for tonight for Saturday. So thanks so much for coming through, and y'all have a nice one. Peace.